The Romanov sisters were the most photographed princesses in their time, but the world knew little about the four girls who appeared in official portraits. The daughters of Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia, and Alexandra of Hesse, the last Tsarina, were often considered just an ornament in the beautiful setting of a larger, more dramatic story, starring their parents and their tragic hemophiliac brother Alexei. Despite what we are shown in portraits, the Romanov princesses were not one-dimensional. Behind the zealous and calm semblance, there were four vibrant and fascinating personalities. Above all, they were distinctive. That's why we made this video, to let you know a little bit about each princess's personality. Olga Nikolaevna Romanov was born on November 15, 1895, the firstborn of Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra Feodorovna. During her pregnancy, the Empress wanted to give birth to a boy. The Tsar couple even chose the name Paul. In Imperial Russia, only men could rule. In other countries such as England, women could ascend the throne. This blessed rule was created by Nicholas II's mother, Empress Maria. Olga's birth lasted 20 hours. The child was large, and the intervention of a doctor was necessary. Even knowing that their daughter could never become a ruler, Nicholas and Alexandra were delighted with little Olga, also the name of one of the Tsar's sisters. They even traveled to the United Kingdom so that Queen Victoria, Alexandra's grandmother, could meet her great-great-granddaughter. Queen Victoria became the princess's godmother. Being the eldest daughter, Olga was often expected to set an example for her younger siblings. She was the most sensitive of the four Romanov sisters, and was also independent and headstrong. Olga was usually compared to her sister Tatiana. The two girls shared a room, dressed alike, and were often called the Great Pair. Olga loved to read and enjoyed her schoolwork. During her lifetime, Olga's future marriage was often speculated about. She had several suitors, among them was Edward, Prince of Wales, the eldest son of King George V. But Olga wanted to marry a Russian and remain in her country. During World War I, she cared for wounded soldiers in a military hospital. Later, she took on administrative duties, as she had become too tired. When the remains of the Romanovs were found in the 1980s, Olga was identified as one of the victims. She was the only daughter to reach adulthood, a decisive fact for the identification of her bones. On June 10, 1897, 2 years after Olga's birth, the Tsar's second daughter, Tatiana, came into the world. The baby girl was considered the splendor of the family. Tatiana's sculpted features resembled those of her mother. Tatiana was pragmatic and a natural leader. Her sisters called her the governess. French tutor Pierre Gilliard noted that Tatiana was reserved and even-tempered, but less open and spontaneous than her older sister Olga. As Tatiana grew older, she began to make more public appearances than her sisters, also heading committees. Like her mother, Tatiana was deeply religious, reading the Bible regularly and studying theology. Although they were the richest children in Russia, Tatiana Romanov and her siblings were raised in a relatively austere manner. Every morning, the brothers took cold baths, and their beds, made by themselves, were simple. When World War I broke out, she became a Red Cross nurse with her mother and Olga. Her talent led several people to think that if she had not been a princess, she could have been a pioneer nurse. But those dreams were interrupted in 1918. The third daughter of the Tsars was born on July 14, 1899, with the name Maria Nikolaevna Romanov. Maria and her younger sister Anastasia were called the Little Pair, as they were the two younger daughters. They also shared a room and dressed alike on special occasions. With a sweet and gentle nature, Maria was sometimes bullied by her sisters, who called her Fat Little Bow Wow. Being the middle child, Maria sometimes felt insecure and pushed aside by her older sisters. Her parents, after Alexei's birth, devoted themselves entirely to their sick child. Maria was a kind spirit. Once, Nicholas noticed that his daughter was too perfect, that she was never a cause for concern, and that he would like her to misbehave one day. Too young to be a nurse during World War II, she visited wounded soldiers in a private hospital on the palace grounds in Tsarskoye Selo. She played board games with the soldiers to boost their morale. Although very young, she eventually had affairs. Maria fell in love with an officer of the guard named Nikolai Demenkov. The young woman fell in love with him, being devastated when he went to the front in 1916. He left her a souvenir shirt, and they continued to keep in touch. During the 20th century, after his death, Maria did not escape the various rumors that guaranteed the survival of one or more members of the imperial family. The possibility that she might have survived the massacre became more palpable after the discoveries of the bodies of 9 of the 11 Romanov family victims. American scientists argued that the 2 missing bodies belonged to Alexei, and one of the Grand Duchesses they identified as Anastasia. But the Russian team claimed that the missing Grand Duchess was Maria. It was only in 2007, after a DNA test, that the body was confirmed as being Maria's. On June the 18th, 1901, the 4th daughter of the Tsars, the widely famous Anastasia Romanov, was born. During the 20th century, the girl became one of the most beloved and talked about historical characters, mainly due to the legend that she had survived the massacre of the Romanov family. Unfortunately, not even the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II managed to escape the horror suffered by the family on July 17, 1918. In the DNA examination done in 2007, one of the 11 bones was Anastasia's. What did the royal Anastasia look like? The 4th daughter of the Tsars was the most volatile child in the family, a force of nature that always entertained and demanded attention. Peculiar, inattentive, and a keen scholar, she was also instinctive and intuitive. It was impossible to ignore her turbulent personality. The record holder for punishable acts in her family, Anastasia would sometimes trip over servants, play tricks on guardians, and climb trees. We can say that she was the little devil of the family. Although much loved, her birth disappointed the Tsars, as she was the 4th girl in a row. They really wanted a boy, especially Alexandra, who felt incomplete as a wife. But this situation was resolved on August 17, 1904, when Tsarevich Alexei was born to everyone's relief. When she died, Anastasia was only 17 years old. From 1920 on, legend had it that Anastasia had survived. The rumor spread further and further. There were women who claimed to be the real princess. Legends, movies, and cartoons told the story of the young girl who could have survived the slaughter.